Being a showman is all well and good, but in a sport like mixed martial arts, if you get too cocky or provoke your opponent to make a move, don't be surprised if that ends up working against you in a violent way. As always, if you guys enjoy the video, please make sure to let us know by giving it a like and hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. Now, without further ado, and ranked in no particular order, here are instant moments of karma in MMA. Maurice Odendorf versus Alexander Wiens. Imitation is the highest form of flattery, they say, but unfortunately, that message doesn't really carry through to a cage fight. For Maurice Odendorf, his clear admiration of Conor McGregor resulted in him donning the Notorious One's trademark look, even adopting a similar fighting style. And sure, this got him some real viral attention at first, especially after looking decent in his earlier bouts. But when he eventually ran into a brick wall, the difference between himself and that two-weight UFC champion could not have been more pronounced. Facing off against Alexander Wiens, Odendorf had problems immediately with his defense.
Die erste Rechte!
That eventually left him TKO'd in the opening round.
Besser nicht. Ui! Die zweite Sitzrichtung, das war's! Das war's!
You know, they say fake it till you make it, but I don't think that extends to a violent fist fight. Arrbolardo versus Shinya. Look, there's nothing terribly wrong with some in-ring taunting to get the crowd hyped up. Hell, you might even provoke your opponent into making a mistake in the process. But this guy certainly took his whole gimmick a little too far. Sure, he was landing some good shots early on and putting on a show for the fans. But once the tides turned, he was made to look quite foolish, as his bottom game was shown to have some major holes in there. 1 minute, he's taunting his opponent, landing shot after shot on the feet. The next, he's a bloody mess, taking some major punishment from his back and unable to get to his feet.
Good, that's landing, that's landing, that's landing, Brad. That's landing. Keep going, Mark. Keep away. Good.
BJJ, it's kind of important, you know? Pasciao versus Roy Deliguez. We're obviously going to be featuring many moments of justice being served, but this right here might just be the most flashy instance of sweet revenge you'll ever see. After a submission attempt was thwarted due to what looked like a combination of fish hooking and eye gouging, Pasciao had every reason to be angry.
He had his fingers in the eye of Pasciao.
So when the fighting resumed, he turned up the intensity in a big way and eventually caught his opponent with a huge spinning back fist right to the jaw.
Does have that one punch precision. So too Pasciao, and it's the Barnawi.
Look at this, misses, spinning back fist right on the button.
He also gave his adversary one more hit on the jaw just for good measure. And while we don't usually condone dishing out extra punishment, in this case, it was sort of understandable. That was some pretty terrible cheating that probably deserved the bad karma it brought about. Jerome Agbude versus Thomas Owen. We understand that sometimes competitive energy can get the best of a fighter, but when you're trying to manufacture beef on a low-level fight just to hype yourself up, that isn't a good sign.
I am the king of the bone, man. I am the greatest martial artist I've ever lived, and soon the whole world will know.
And for Jerome Agbude, his decision not to shake his opponent's hand made him a fierce enemy in Thomas Owen. It's all well and good if you back up your attitude with a solid performance, but unfortunately, Jerome had a tough night at the office, losing in just 21 seconds after eating a hard counter shot.
Owen with a few fights more.
Big left hook drops in.
With the power, and he
Unbelievable finish. That left hook landed on the button and he folded him like a house of cards in a brisk wind. Superb finish for Owen.
It's not that shaking his opponent's hand would have made the fight any easier, but hey, at least he could have avoided becoming a viral moment, right? Joshua Fames versus Paul Teague. If you bring a certain energy to the weigh-in and provoke your opponent, you better try to survive at least the first exchange or two of the bout so you don't look totally foolish. Unfortunately, this bare-knuckle bout came to a very sudden and brutal conclusion as Paul Teague realized he had bitten off way more than he could chew, taking a hard shot straight to the dome that left him totally out of it, barely able to stand.
Fucking gold trucks for fans. Great trucks for Paul Teague. I don't know if he is down.
All that good work at the weigh-in came to nothing. If only bouts were decided on the scales, right? Juan versus Mansour Barnawi. Just because you're a champion, it doesn't mean you have class. And for Juan, his attempts to get into the head of the contender Barnawi were rendered totally ineffective by Fight Night. He did everything in his power to try to raise the stakes pre-fight, but in the end, he was simply nullified by his opponent's technical superiority.
He's ragdolling him.
just absolutely dominated him, and he's knocked him down!
And when the action hit the mat, the difference in skill became even more pronounced. The challenger had his way with the champion for the majority of this bout, and when the fight-ending choke was sunk in, it seemed more like a formality than anything else.
Mansour is just taking his time, look at that.
Oh, Mansour,
So and there it is!
A truly dominant display. Anderson Silva versus Andre Munier. Is there a more despicable move in combat sports than the fake glove touch? Well, actually, now that we think about it, there probably is. But that doesn't make this dirty tactic by Andre Munier against Anderson Silva any better. And yes, there are two Anderson Silvas in the world of fighting. And this Anderson Silva is a big guy, not the type of person you want to anger in any way. And to his credit, Silva remained composed in there, eventually finding a massive counterpunch to shut his opponent's lights out.
Uppercut there from Munier. One look here from Munier, he gets tagged!
And earned the perfect slice of justice in the process. Lindsay versus Carlo Yunyo. For some fighters, the action of the MMA cage is just so enjoyable that they can't help but crack a big smile whenever things get particularly heated. Unfortunately, if you get KO'd directly after having a big goofy grin on your face, you're always going to end up on videos like this one. And that's actually what happened here. 1 minute, this guy is enjoying himself.
Lindsay smiling.
The next, he was flat on his back after eating a huge front kick to the face.
Giving a little Nick Diaz there.
Oh!
Big kick!
That is the end, ladies and gentlemen. Carlo Yunyo puts Lindsay away.
A lot can change in a few short seconds in this game. Dyack versus Levin Makashvili. This is a great example of a cocky fighter making one hell of a misjudgment, as Dyack decided that he was really starting to feel himself at the end of this round. So what did he do? Well, he dropped his hands, beckoned his opponent to hit him. And when his adversary obliged him, Roman ended up getting himself knocked out.
Definitely, indeed, you know, like... It feels like Levin is almost taking the last minute off, trying to get some extra breathing. Roman calling it. Oh! As we say that!
It was a cruel turn of events. But let's be real, this guy probably deserved what he got in the end. As the old saying goes, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. Baruch Martin versus Conrad Jaskovich. You guys ever seen Gilbert Melendez versus Diego Sanchez? Well, it's an all-time great UFC collision. And in that bout, we saw just how crazy Diego was during his prime. The way he would put his hands down and walk forward fearlessly, openly inviting his opponents to hit him, confident that his chin would serve him well in the face of any shots coming back at him. Well, that works for a guy like Diego Sanchez, but more often than not, you end up getting situations like this, when Conrad Jaskovich suffered a brutal knockout loss to Baruch Martin. The timing here could not have been worse. Conrad escaped the leg lock, returned to his feet, called on his opponent to stand and bang, and then immediately got nailed in the face by a flying knee.
Throw a little message into the crowd, put his hands up the back on the feet. Oh! Oh my goodness! A flying knee from Jaskovich! This fight is over!
Yeah, that's a tough one. Melvin Manhoef versus Kawamura. Using unorthodox movements and feinting in fights is actually a great way to confuse or befuddle your opponent. But when your opponent is the legendary kickboxer Melvin Manhoef, well, you might want to be careful before getting him angry. Because at first, Kawamura's tactics were actually working quite well.
What a strange style this Japanese fighter has.
Manhoef, though experienced, was clearly surprised by his approach.
Oh. Well, look at this. Melvin Manhoef doesn't really know what to make of this.
And just couldn't get his own shots to land with any consistency. But like most gimmicky styles, the cracks did eventually begin to show.
I don't think keeping your hands down may be the most beneficial way to fight Melvin Manhoef.
Well, he may soon learn that lesson.
Eventually, one of Kawamura's weird techniques saw him run directly into a hard shot from Melvin, which immediately put him out cold.
He really doesn't know what to expect. He did it! Oh, he did it again!
Big right hand.
A mean finish to an admittedly bizarre fight. And hey, if you guys enjoyed this video, please be sure to let us know by giving it a like and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.